Good morning and afternoon. It's Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Welcome all. I'm Kane and I'm joined with David, better known as the Workday sharing guy. Also joining me is Denise, Logan, and special guests. Welcome to the Sharing Show.
Thank you, Kane. Can you please tell me a little bit more about Zoom?
Absolutely. So we are using Zoom as always to present today the show, and you can interact with us using the chat button at the bottom. If you click on that, you'll notice that the default is all panelists. So we want you to change that right now to all panelists and attendees. That way, when you send a question, everyone will see it, not just the panelists on the show. So just as a reminder, click on chat, make sure you select all panelists and attendees. One last quick reminder, we are back to a bi-weekly show, so every 2 weeks. So we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. But we're going to start the show now, so I'm going to pass this over for our first section of the show.
Thanks, Kane. First, we're going to have David talk a little bit about our Brainstorm Dashboard.
Okay, hi everybody. This is David. We introduced dashboards last week on the sharing show. We now have this one live and ready to go. You'll have to request access, but I think everybody has the link in which you can request access. So this is a list of all the airings so far in season 1 of Brainstorm presentations. What you see here on the left is a list that's a little bit hard to read, and then on the right are all the videos. So if you click on the list on the left, it will bring up its own smart sheet. And you'll see here the episode is highlighted, sorted, and then there's several brainstorms that have been sent to us where we haven't yet recorded on the show. So for those who have brainstorms and you'd like to present, we're going to ask you here in a bit on the survey Kahoot, how many people would like to have. We have 3 more airings of the sharing show before the new year. How many of you would like to have a show dedicated, or at least 10-15 minutes on brainstorms? You see here 2 of my favorite of the brainstorms that we've discussed. This one, allowing customers to post videos on community. Wouldn't that be great? And now this one here is to avoid confusion between the word yes, as you see here, and the word no, which actually shows up as empty. These are 2 of my favorite brainstorms that we talked about. If you see the picture of who posted it, you might know why. Then you could see which airings, which episodes they were. Season 1, episode 4, for example. This is, by the way, that same dashboard. This is now the Brainstorm Dashboard on a phone. And it works great on the phone. You click on the video you want to watch, and then it will play right there on the phone. And when it's done, you click the X and it brings you right back to this screen. It's a little bit better here on the phone than it is on a computer. Okay, Denise, we're ready for the first Kahoot.
Thanks, David. Let's go ahead and do our first Kahoot. Open a browser and go to kahoot.it, and we will get started.
So for those who are new on the sharing show, a phone, a computer, any browser, type kahoot.it, not kahoot.com, and it will ask you for a PIN. Oh my gosh, we have our first 7-digit PIN, 5867857. Denise,
So
have you
all
ever
of the-
seen a 7-digit? Have you seen?
No, we were
7-digit?
talking about that earlier this morning, that we went from a 4-digit last week to a 7-digit. All the questions, the first set of questions don't have a right or wrong answer. So whatever best suits your situation. But then the last question is a quiz question and we'll have a right or wrong answer.
Okay, we're up to 50.
Here we go. There's 5 questions.
All right, poll question. Which topic would you like to see in the next 3 episodes of the sharing show? Would you like to see recruiting, learning, the Workday Cloud Platform, reporting and calc fields. And now we're doing reporting and calc fields now, so we're going to see how many people. I'm assuming that if you vote for green, you're going to want to see it. Yeah, so maybe next show we will do reporting and calc fields as well. But it's important for us to see second and third place are the close tie between recruiting and cloud platform. Next question, which of these would you like to see in the next 3 episodes of the Sharing Show? Similar question, but now you have a choice. More brainstorms, and you could yourself share your favorite. More quiz Kahoot questions at the end. Both brainstorms and a longer quiz Kahoot, or neither of those. You really prefer the previous slide that had, previous question that had more topics. Okay, a fair number of people wanted more brainstorms, and then a lot of people wanted both. How many errands of the Sharing Show have you attended live? So live does not mean watching on the YouTube channel. This is your first 2 to 5, 6 to 10, or you watched, been here for 11 or more. Okay, we don't have too many people here that are coming for the first time. All right, 51%, 2 to 5. One more poll question. How many areas of the Sharing Show have you watched on the YouTube channel? I do know one person binge watched. So 0 to 5, blue is 5 to 10, yellow is over 10, but not all, and then green is you've watched all of them. Okay, not that many people have watched. There's that one binge watcher, I think, perhaps, making a comment in the chat. Okay, here's the quiz question. There is one right answer. Joining the Workday Alumni Customer and Friends Co-Ed Movember team gives you what? It gives you 1 guess at the Workday $200 and a penny stock challenge, 5 guesses, or a guaranteed Valley parking at Rising, or dinner with Logan in Milan. You get 5 guesses. All right, so this is by joining the Movember team. It's actually now called the Move Ember team. You'll hear more about that during the show. Oh, okay, this wasn't really a quiz, but congrats, Gretch, for making it to the top of the podium.
Thanks everyone for playing. What's next on the agenda?
Up next on the agenda, we have David, the Workday Sharing Guy.
All right, thank you, Denise. All right, this is David again. If you didn't know me by that name, I'm David, the Sharing Guy. And so I have a disclaimer, a handshake agreement with my previous manager at Workday. I worked at Workday for 6 years, and I left about 6 years ago. I've been doing only Workday for over 12 years. I need to make it clear to you, I don't work for Workday anymore. I might be holding the street sign the day they put it up, but I left Workday 6 years ago. What you're seeing here on the Sharing Show and Share-a-thons, this is not representing Workday in any way. It's just myself, my ideas, you guys, customers, your ideas, you're representing yourself. This is not training. I highly recommend taking training from Workday. And now I've recently added, since I've started doing workshops, I also highly recommend my calc field workshops. When I worked at Workday, I wrote the calculated field and reporting and integration training classes, both for customers and for the consultants who got certified. So in the calc field workshops, there's a beginner level where we make sure people understand those icons and the fact that data has different types. That picture shows almost all the functions in almost all the right places of the return type that they would give. Now, that's not beginner level. We only hit not even a third of those at the beginner level. And we have an intermediate and advanced levels. So this is showing you the calendar. We have coming up next week, beginner. The week after that, intermediate. Then there's Thanksgiving week, and we're off. Then in December, we do beginner, intermediate, advanced. Those who want more know how to find me, but it's davidthesharingguy.com.
Thanks, David. What's next on the agenda?
Up next, we're going to have our first guest, Laureen from Ohio, with using Excel templates.
All right, Laureen, while you're getting ready, that we could check your audio in a second here, but I want to make sure for those who are new to Workday that they understand part of what you're going to show is when you run a report, you could click a X or some icon that exports that report output into Excel. Now this is showing only 104 rows in a report where I grade out the actual data, but most people click that, a lot of report users click that X to get the output into Excel. Often if there's a report with 1,000 or 10,000, even hundreds of lines, very few people scroll up and down. Quite often a user of a report clicks that X. So I wanted to give that preview here for your slide start. And go ahead and check your audio, Laureen.
Thank you, David.
We can hear you.
Perfect. So the benefits team came to me with a request to make their job simpler. They were receiving a 10,000 row data dump or a flat file, as shown here, that was taking them 3 hours or more to get the information needed to report to our life insurance vendor. They need to group the employees by age band for dependents or members, and then sum the coverages and get a head count. So to do that, I gave them a calculated field for member band and dependent age band. The next slide, please. So using a pivot table in the background, which can be set to run now or a preset schedule, it will deliver 3 tabs, one for raw data, one for the dependent sort, and one for the member sort, and it summarizes the information. The key they have to remember is to use the refresh all on the Excel template to recalculate using the data that's there. Next slide. So here is a look at the age bands. I used a lookup range band to focus on the worker age, that is on the left side, and the other is using the dependent business object to look at the dependent age. And the bands have a from value and a to value that were defined by the vendor. Next slide, please. After that, I created 2 pivot tables. You'll see that on the Excel screenshot. The raw data is that flat file or that data dump. The member data is a pivot table that groups all the member information, and the dependent data does the same for the dependent. After that, I saved this, and using the custom report, if you go to the related actions, this is the top right, there's an ability to, off the custom report, maintain an Excel template. From there, you can attach your template. 2 things to keep in mind: the file name should be the same as the report name with underscores and .xlsx, and the worksheet name needs to be the same as the output, so raw data and raw data. One final note: you can only get the Excel pivot tables if you schedule the report. If you run it ad hoc, you will not see the pivot table. So one thing to keep in mind. And as a bonus, there are a couple additional lookup range bands, and this has been posted to the community sharing show node.
Thank you so much for sharing. What do we have next on the agenda?
Up next, we have Laureen again with another great copying info from an RBO to a BO.
I want to go back to this slide just to reiterate that you put more information, not just what we see here, but more information is posted now on community on the page that's for the sharing show. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so before you talk about related business objects and business objects, again, for beginners, those somewhat new to Workday, I just want to make sure you know you could view a business object underneath red. Here you see this is a business object actually for a custom report. And these are the fields on the custom report business object. Here's the field type. several of those field types are actually business objects themselves. So you can see the related business object as well as the name of the field. Those often do not match. The name of the field on the custom report business object is active report tags. The actual business object itself, that's a related business object, is report tag. There's a tab here, related business objects, and from there you could see all the related business objects that this particular business object points to. It's a big web, a huge spider web that's not symmetrical. So there's a whole bunch of other business objects that point to this particular business object, and you see that on the right. Okay, Lorraine, it's on to you.
Thank you again. So in this example, I am working with some recruiting business objects, in particular the last recruiting stage and the job application. This concept does apply across all business objects within Workday. So my issue is I needed to understand when a candidate was moved into a particular status on a particular date and time. Report was built off of job application, but status start date did not exist. Status start date resides on the recruiting status. So in the next slide, I'll show you the 3 calculated fields I used to pull this all together. So the first thing I needed to do is evaluate a true false for the status that I wanted, which is screened, off of the recruiting status. Next, I used extract single instance and put that condition, you'll see that noted with the A, and I used the job application prospects and referrals business object to give me the status start date in descending order. I wanted the most recent occurrence. Then finally, I used a lookup related value to pull this all together. And you can see I'm looking up the extract single instance I created in step B, which then referenced my true false, and it pulled onto the job application business object, which gives me the desired result for reporting and filtering. I used a build date calculated field to extract the date and the time. So I'm using one calculated field in 5 different places. And then I set this into the filter per the recruiting department's requirements to understand which candidates moved into the screen status in the last 24 hours.
So to summarize here, I see a lot of ands and ors and parentheses. You're just looking for those who moved into screen in the last 24 hours.
Correct.
Got it. All right. Lorraine, thank you for sharing. In the chat, people who have questions on your calc fields and your use of Excel, you could follow the chat, but also at the end of the show, we have an open mic. Are you able to stay on? We usually go about 15 minutes at the end of the show.
Yes, I can stay.
Okay, so use the chat in the meanwhile. And then for those who want to use audio after the show, we'll be right on at the end for the open mic.
Thanks so much, Lorraine, for sharing. That was really interesting. What do we have next on the agenda?
Up next, we have Movember and Workday Stock Challenge.
All right, this is David again. And last week, I've encouraged people to join our Movember team. So our Movember team is called Workday Alumni, Customers, and Friends, which means after you join, many of you are customers, most of you are customers. After you join, if you have friends who are interested, you could tell them about Movember. It's not so much a focus anymore. It is a focus on men's health, but it's a focus on physical and mental health, which is gender neutral. So you'll see on the picture of the team, we're over 1/3 of the way to this very challenging target of 100 members, more than triple of last year's team. Last year we had more women than men. So far, more women than men. It takes only a couple of minutes to join Movember. You could do a search for Movember, you'll find it. Once you join, you then will find the Workday Alumni Customer and Friend, or you could search for my name and you just click join this team. That's all you have to do. You don't have to fundraise. You'll see a lot of people have zero money on the list. Just by joining the team, we have somebody who will contribute if we make it to our target of 100 members. So those who are interested in physical or mental health, it's 1 month out of the year where you get to focus on it. Now, I was practicing for the last half of a month. On the very end of the month, I started on July 31st, just happened to be a TOLA user group meeting in Austin, Texas. So, well, the day after is when I flew. So I did fly home with half a mustache. It's on the very last day of the month that I went with a half mo. So now let's get to the Workday $200 and a penny stock challenge. All you have to do is guess the day in which it crosses over the line. I turned it sideways. It's kind of a trick when you learn in painting class. I learned you turn the photo upside down and you turn your canvas upside down. Might help you see like the perspective a little bit better. So that's the line right there where we did this about 6 months ago, where they crossed over $200 and a penny. And so we are now giving away an Apple Watch to whoever picks the date. And that picture shows where we are currently, and also, you know, the strangely misunderstood by analysts how the sharing movement is going to help the Workday ecosystem. And we'll get back to $200 at a certain moment. You get to guess 5 dates once you join the Movember team. Okay, so join the Movember team, then you'll send us 5 dates. Good luck picking the dates.
Thanks, David. What do we have next on the agenda?
Up next, we have shares with calculated fields.
Okay, so I'm going to go first here, Rebecca, before you join, because I want to make sure people understand that when we talk about like simple calculated fields, like this true false condition, I think that it's easy when you just talk about ands and ors in parentheses. I don't know how many people would have guessed Laureen's ands and ors of picking out those who have moved to the screen stage in recruiting in the past 24 hours. So let's just see how many people can guess what the ands and ors in parentheses are to highlight that purple section of A, B, C. And now that's, you know, you're not supposed to get a headache during the sharing show. Those who are watching on YouTube, feel free to pause and give yourself a headache or know that you got the right answer. Right, so that's A, and then in parentheses, we have B or C. Now the parentheses are often important. So I like to say, and we put it in the Calc Field workshop, always put parentheses. So I will give you a minute. Again, we don't want you to have a headache, but how many people can get this? Actually, it's a challenge. Go ahead and put it in the chat if you think you've got it. I'll give you about 10 seconds, and then I'll show the answer. So feel free to put in the chat. In this case, you could send it only to all panelists, but we'd like you to go ahead and go all panelists and attendees. And those who have already taken the workshops, John, not to mention any names. Actually, I don't think you saw this one, but let's see how many other people actually get this. I said 10 seconds, which is about now. Any other guesses? So this is A or B and C. All right, I'm sure that was the most fun that you've had so far in the sharing show today. Let's continue the fun.
Thanks, David. What do we have next on the agenda?
Up next, we have Rebecca from Utah, the Calc Field Share.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, David. All right, so I wanted to show you guys a couple use cases of how we have calc fields that use a combination of true, false, lookup related value, extract single instance, and extract multi-instance. This first use case, we needed to have a field that would determine if the worker related to the dependent is a VIP. So it's going to be used on a report that's based off the worker, but it's going off the dependent record. And then we determined that its director and above would be considered as VIP. So the first step in creating this calc field, we needed to have a true false, where we listed the management levels and all the management levels that we decided are considered a VIP. Then we also needed to also have a second calculated field, which is a lookup related value on the dependent business object. The reason why we can't just, while we're on the report, return back the returned back the management level of the worker is because we needed it to show up for every dependent. That was just something that the company needed, and so we had to use this second field. On this one, we used the business object for dependent. We had to look up the worker, and then we referenced the calc field, which is the one we created before. And then that is the final field. So it really just took 2 fields to get us what we needed to then show it on the report and give us the result we wanted.
Great, and I see here the report's on all active workers, so the primary business object is worker, but
Correct.
you went ahead and showed it for each dependent.
Yeah, the fields above are all the workers, so it returns all their data. And then on the same report, they also wanted all the data for the dependents, and specifically for each dependent, if their associated worker was a VIP or not. And then I didn't show it on this screen, but on the field overrides, it either says yes if it comes back as a yes, this is a true false. And then you could also use the override to say show no when false, so it doesn't just have a blank or a yes.
Oh, that's nice. That's similar to one of my 2 favorite brainstorms. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah, it would have been helpful.
Okay, now another a completely different example, right?
Yeah, so it's used on the same report, but this one was a little more levels deep. So for this use case, we needed to determine if the dependent is currently enrolled in a medical plan. If, for example, you could have many dependents, but only have your spouse on the medical plan and none of your children. So the first part of this calc field is that we had to determine true false on the benefit election if medical is elected at all. Just because we have different types of medical plans, we wanted to specifically say on these medical plans, are you either currently, future, historical, or previously elected? Then the second step, it's not used in this calc field, but you'll see both of these are going to be built on the next stage, on the next page, is that we needed to have an extract multi-instance. The reason why you'll use extract multi-instance is because if you're enrolled in benefits, there could be multiple types of benefits. And we needed to pull everything that you're currently enrolled in as of date. So we took the dependent, we looked at their benefit elections and returned everything that they're enrolled in. Now, we combined those 2 on the third step. So the biggest picture on the right is where we combine those 2. So this is where we have the first field we created is on the condition where it says CF, TF, medical elected, but we're looking at our source field. So if you go up to that EMI where it says CF EMI dependent benefit elections currently enrolled, we're taking all the benefit elections that a dependent has, saying, is it one of those medical ones and were you currently elected? Then we needed to make sure we get the right sort field in there. Give us the most recent benefit event date. Then we picked the sort direction, which we picked descending. And when we did that, that gives us the most recent event because we wanted that on top. And then to the left is the final calc field that we ended up having on the report, because once again, they wanted a Boolean, yes or no, are they enrolled in a medical plan? So we took that extract single instance, put it into another true false condition, and that was our final calc field right there.
All right, Rebecca, I think that was fast and good. I do not know. For some people, let's see in the chat. And then also, are you available for the open mic?
Yep, I am.
Okay, we're going to start that as soon as we get through the quiz Kahoot.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. It looks like we have the quiz Kahoot next on the agenda. Is that right?
Yeah, but let's first have a word from our sponsors.
Excellent. Today, our episode is co-sponsored by Humanity, and Humanity is a Workday-approved employee scheduling software.
All right, nice. And for those who missed the previous shows, Humanity also sponsored the share buttons, which said share Humanity.
Okay, let's see who will make the podium this week with our quiz Kahoots.
And we're waiting for the quiz Kahoot to get started. Thank you, everybody, for going a little bit longer here.
You may have to refresh your screen, but here is our new PIN number for the quiz Kahoot. It's 9884508. And these will all have a right or wrong answer.
Yeah, I don't know the best way to remember 7 digits when you're going fast. It's like a phone number, 988-4508. It was easy when we had 6. So 98-84-58.
right, here we go.
Over 50 players here. These are quiz. A lookup range band, calc field to return which type? Text, date, single instance, or range band. So red is text, blue is date, yellow is single instance, green is range band. Okay, it returns text. We didn't really cover that. So I could see how that was not easy for people. Let's see how many of the 10. Okay, Jill, faster by 25 points, and Augustine, Rick D, Tina R, and Bridget. Now we have more questions than typical, so keep going. 2 out of 7. And the Workday UI, which value is typically shown for false? The word false, the letter F, the word no, or none of the above. Now you do see the word Boolean here in the picture. This is in the Workday UI, by the way. We highlighted it in the report. There's an option, so a lot of people got that right. None of the above, because typically you just see nothing. You just see, hey, okay. Augustine, you're up top now by about 68 points over LPB. John S, Rick D, and Bridget, all within 103 points. What is the correct condition for this picture? Okay, it's an A, B, and C picture. I mean, see, A, B, C. I shouldn't have used a word and or. So A and B and C, A or B and C in parentheses, A or B in parentheses and C, or none of those. I promise only one of these. Okay, the answer was supposed to be only yellow, A or B and C. So if you said none of the above, you just got lucky. You got points. It was supposed to be yellow. Okay, John S, you're ahead by 65 points over Augustine, LPB, Bridget, and Rick D. You're all in the top 5. Let's keep going. 4 out of 7. To prepare for Movember, David has been wearing a half mo for half of a year, for half of a month, on the final day of every month since July, or since Halloween. All right, a lot of people got that. Okay, it's strange. Count fields are more important than my half mustache. All right, Augustine, you're in front of Bridget, John S, LPB, and Mike ST. You've made it into the top 5. We've got 3 more questions. The next single instance requires, what does it require? A condition, but not a sort. A sort, but not a condition. Neither a condition or a sort, or both a condition and a sort. It is required for you to put both a condition and a sort. Again, that wasn't quite covered, but it was somewhat discussed. Augustine, you're pulling ahead here pretty far. Bridget, John S, LPB, Mike ST, pretty close for maybe 3rd place, but we'll see. There's still many questions left. 2 more. A lookup related value, LOV required. What does it require? A single instance from which to pull, a multiple instance from which to pull, a text field from which to pull, or none of the above are required. All right, a lot of people got that. I don't think we covered this at all, but for those who know it, congrats for getting that right. Let's check the score here. Augustine, Bridget, John S, Shane, you've made it into the top 5, and Rebecca, you're in the top 5. One final question. The podium's only 3. Who will be at Workday Rising in Milan? Kane, David, Logan, Denise. Red is Kane, blue is David, yellow is Logan, green is Denise. Who will you see in Milan if you're going? Or who will you see pictures from? Okay, turns out there are 2 right answers. Kane is going, and Logan. Kane, would you like to say a few words as we wrap up the show?
So I'll say after the final podium.
Okay, all right. So Augustine, this was one of the largest wins. You got 7 out of 7. That's why. Bridget, you had 6 out of 7, and John S. Congrats to all 3 of you. 5 out of 7. So you all get a shirt that says share on the front, and it'll say I made the podium on the back.
Excellent. Well, thank you, David. And as that last question, yes, I will be with the company I work for, Dovetail Software, in the expo room in Milan next week. So if you're there, I also will have Logan with me. So if you're there and you want a picture with Logan, if you've seen some of the pictures we've done before, then please come and find us in the expo hall. And last thing to say then, so thank you, David, Denise, Logan, and special thank you to our guests for speaking and sharing on the show today. As always, we will publish this episode to the YouTube channel, and so please go over to YouTube, hit subscribe, and get notifications when the latest episode is out. You can go back and obviously view the past episodes. And again, just a reminder, 2 weeks from today is the next airing show, and next week I will be with Logan in Rising Europe in Milan. All that's left to say, I should say, before we close out the show, we will come back after the closeout back to the open mic. So we'll close out the show and then we'll come back live to the open mic. So all that's left to say for this show is have a great work day.